total amount of fraud which has taken place in India with regard to the fake invoice is approximately 47,000 crore. With in certain cases, credits are translated into export refund also. So credits have been taken based on fake in ITC. Exports have been shown and refund of money has been taken. This has happened in many cases, thousand and thousand cases. It is expected that with the introductions of the e-invoicing system, this fake invoice chapter will be closed. It will not only help the buyer, it will not only help the government, it will also help the seller too. So therefore, if you get a credit through government portal in respect of the e-invoice, you could be very sure that this credit is genuine. You need not to check your invoice about the authenticity. So this is automatic credit and nobody can dispute. Today, if you take a credit based on fake invoice or against materials which were not existent, in such cases, the entire credit has to be reverted with interest and penalty. So in the process, some good buyer, they also suffer the same some problem. So it gives you an assurance that this credit is genuine and nobody, including the department, can challenge this credit because this credit is coming through portal. So therefore, it protects the buyer of the materials because he is quite sure about the correctness of the credit. It also helps the revenue department to be sure that the collections and revenues are intact. Lastly, there is a QR system in the invoice. So this helps you that even if your invoice is lost for any reason, with the help of the QR reading, you can generate invoice and you have no problem. Friends, these are the major disadvantages of this e-invoice. But main intention is to stop the fraud. Friends, the way it is coming today or from 1st October cannot guarantee all these benefits because e-invoice is not compulsory to all. So therefore, even if your turnover is above 500 crores and you come under e-invoice, but you may have several vendors who are below 500. So your problem about the authenticity of the invoice is still there and it will continue until and unless the entire system is brought under e-invoicing system. There will be MSME. In our country, there are around 12 crore MSME. Maximum 99.99% would be outside the 500 crore threshold limit. Their supply will continue to the big companies and small companies. Therefore, the authenticity of their invoices will still be there. So until and unless we bring these systems for the company as a whole, the risks which is today there of fraud will still continue. This is what I personally feel. But so far buyers and sellers are concerned, they are highly benefited because it is automatic credit and you need not to be blamed for taking credit on fake invoice. We know many companies, they suffer considerably although they are genuine. So therefore, for genuine companies, now what is expected, I think main big companies will slowly ask their suppliers that please come through e-invoicing system. Those who have a very big control on their vendors. So therefore, mind that although today it is applicable only for companies having a turnover of 500 crores and above, but it will certainly come down drastically from 500 crores to 100 crores within a very short period. It is because of the COVID-19 situation, very challenging condition which is prevailing in the business community. This limit has been increased to 500 crores. But it was not the intention of the department. Intention of the department was 100 crores. So we do hope this challenging position will continue for another 2 or 3 months. For example, January onwards, probably we have to handle many other companies who would come under this e-invoicing system. Now your concept is clear, objective is very clear, but we have to know the legal areas, we have to know the technicalities. We are not preparing the software. People who are preparing the software with logic, taking into consideration the e-invoicing norms as set out by the CBIC, that is to be understood by us. This is required by the people who are handling this matter on a day-to-day basis. They should know the practical part of the operations. With this aim in view, we have requested to speak on these two ideas. First, Mr. Mehta will deliberate. The time allotted to Mr. Mehta is 30 minutes. And thereafter, Mr. Sarkar and his e-invoicing team will discuss the matter and will have a practical demonstrations on the whole issue for your total understanding. With this, I am requesting Mr. Mehta to take up the matter and go ahead with his deliberations. Thank you very much.
Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yeah, your screen is visible.
Okay. So I'll start. Thank you everyone and welcome to the session. I'll be taking you through the e-invoicing under GST and the legal framework around that. So as Mr. Chatterjee just explained, what exactly e-invoicing is. E-invoicing as a concept, let me just clarify once. It is not that an invoice will be generated by the government portal. That is not the concept. It is the same invoice that we are generating through our ERP which will be validated by the government portal. So, today as it stands, while we generate an invoice, a debit note or a credit note, which has a GST footprint onto it, will have to be validated by the government portal, and then that will be considered as a valid invoice as far as GST is concerned. The question here in which comes is how does the government portal validate that? What is the print or what is the confirmation from their end? So there are two things which government portal will be giving over here. Once we send the invoice or the debit note or the credit note to the government portal, the first thing is IRN, which is invoice reference number, and second is the QR code. So while we send the document to the government portal, these two things will be coming from them as a stamp or as a token that this particular invoice or a document has been validated by the government. The mandate from government is that QR code needs to be printed on that invoice, and IRN number, which is a 64-digit number, can also be printed. But the QR code, once it's scanned, there are 7-8 parameters which can be seen from that. One of the parameters is IRN. So while somebody tries to scan that QR code, they'll be able to know the IRN number which is there for that particular transaction. Just to clarify, IRN is a 64-digit random alphanumeric number. So it is not possible to type and print it on the invoice. It is something that has to be done through by way of digitization. What transactions will be covered? When I say GST invoices, debit notes, and credit notes, it is something that has a GST footprint onto it, and those transactions will be required to generate. For that, the taxpayer will have to generate IRN and QR code. And some of the documents which are not covered within the purview or for which IRN is not required, it's bill of supply, delivery challan, ISD invoices. So these are some of the documents for which it is not required. Moving on. So as the concept of e-invoicing goes, initially when this thing came up, the government's intention was to bring to the net taxpayers who are having an aggregate turnover of above 100 crores. So they came up with a notification wherein that assessees who are having aggregate turnover above 100 crores the concept of e-invoicing will be applicable on them. While they tried to bring in that concept, the amendments which they made at that point, way back in December, was the first one was they amended the rules and tried to bring in and they notified that the invoices or the class of registered persons who are mandated by the government to generate IRN and QR code will have to send the details to government portal and get the IRN number and QR code from there. The medium for sending a form was notified, which is called as INV01. So this is a particular format in which the data will be sent to the government portal, which will be validated, and it will be coming back to the ERP. So as different ERPs have different invoice formats, there was a need of standardization, which is why they brought in this INV01, wherein there are certain mandatory fields and certain optional fields which are there stipulated in that particular notification. So they tried to bring in a rule stating that these taxpayers will have to get the invoices validated. There are certain exclusions to it, and they've specifically mentioned that the taxpayers who are mandated to send the data to IRA invoice registration portal, if they do not do that, then that particular document will not be called as an invoice. So we need to keep in mind that such document which fails, or somebody who's supposed to send the invoice to IRP, invoice registration portal, that is a government portal, but fails to do so, in that case such document will not be called as an invoice. In December, they also notified 10 common electronic portals wherein you can try and test certain transactions, and that will be the gateway to sending the data to that particular government portal and get your invoices validated.
Let him clear all that, I'm saying.
So, as the concept goes back to way back from November and December, since when this entire concept was emerging, the government had brought in a lot of concept notes and FAQs at that point of time. And as I mentioned, that at that point of time, the idea was that assessees wherein whose aggregate turnover is increasing 100 crores, they will fall within the net of e-invoicing, and they need to start it effective 1st of April 2020. Alongside, it was also mentioned that for B2C transactions, for businesses or taxpayers having B2C transactions whose turnover is more than 500 crores, they need to self-generate QR code and print it on the invoice. That was also effective 1st of April. So in this regard, they had issued some schemas, which is INV01, which I just mentioned, and APIs were released at that point of time. As and when, as the time passed by, the effective date of 1st April came closer. When the government, made a change in the legislation, made a change by stating that the starting date for e-invoicing would be extended from 1st of April to 1st of October, considering the limitations which were there at that point of time. Recently, in July, what has happened is the government came up with one more notification wherein they have told that for taxpayers whose aggregate turnover in a financial year is increasing 500 crores, they would be required to follow the concept of e-invoicing effective 1st of October 2020. So, they, in effect, what they've done is they've increased the threshold from 100 crores to 500 crores. While interpreting those notifications, one question which directly comes to our mind is, so if we go through that notification, what it says is the aggregate turnover in a financial year, if it is exceeding 500 crores, then e-invoicing IRN is applicable. The question which arises over here is we need to see the turnover for which financial year, whether it is the previous financial year, say current financial year, or any other financial year. That is what the question, that was a question which was revolving among taxpayers, because assuming that in the previous financial year, which is 1920, their turnover was 400 crores, and it is in this year that their turnover is increasing, is crossing 500 crores. So whether that entire thing would be applicable on them or not. So to answer this, they have first of all they have given two things. One is on the e-invoicing portal. What they have done is they have notified the list of taxpayers to whom this e-invoicing is applicable. So there's a segment over there where we can see whether it is applicable or not. That is one. And second, in recent GSTN interactions, interaction with GSTN official, what we've gathered is they'll be coming up with a circular or a clarification wherein they are going to say that it is going to when they are going to say that it is not for the we need not see only the previous financial year. What we understand is this is the discussions that effective 1st July 2017, if this that turnover has increased and has exceeded 500 crores, in that case e-invoicing is applicable on them. So that clarification is very much expected from CBIC on this aspect, but I thought I'll share this over here. Moving on, the INV01 format, which was prescribed way back in December, was updated recently in July, and some of the fields were introduced and deleted, so that the mandatory fields and the optional fields which are there in order to send the data to INV have been notified in that notification. Recently, in July, what they mentioned was they carved out an exception for e-invoicing for SEZ units as well. So the exception which was carved out earlier while introducing the concept of invoicing was applicable to the following persons. That is GTA supplying services in relation to transportation of goods by road, insurers, banking companies, financial institutions, suppliers providing passenger transportation services, persons supplying services by way of admission to exhibition of cinematographic films in multiplex screens, and recently added is SEZ units. So somebody who is not required to generate IRN and QR code or not follow the concept of invoicing are these which have been notified by the government. As the due date comes closer, the due date of 1st October comes closer. What is happening is the government has been reaching out to taxpayers and they've been sending out emails that which is there on the right hand side of the screen, and they've mentioned that basis your turnover, you are applicable. You need to generate your invoices and get the invoices validated on the government portal effective 1st of October. And these are the things that we have done in this regard. So we've released the recent schema, the APIs, and all those things have been released. And you can go to the e-invoice portal and check the enablement status of your particular GSTN. So there's a section, as I mentioned, on the e-invoice trial portal, wherein you can go and check whether this portal, whether this concept of e-invoicing is has been enabled in your for your particular GSTN or not. One thing to mention over here is, assuming that your turnover is exceeding 500 crores, but still your name is not, or the GSTN is not enabled over here, what GSTN has told that you need to reach out to them in order to check whether at all this concept would be applicable on this particular GSTN or not. So reaching out to GSTN is what they have suggested over here. That was on the legal framework where what are the updates that government has been issuing ever since the concept of e-invoicing was introduced way back in November and December. What actually is the need for e-invoicing? As Mr. Chatterjee mentioned, the most important reason for this is curbing the tax evasion. So currently the cases of fraudulent invoices is circulating all around, and fake ITC being claimed, and as a result culminating it into export refunds is very much in place. So in order to have a control on this entire thing, the idea is to introduce this concept of e-invoicing, wherein once the document is validated by on a government portal, and IRN and unique IRN and QR code is affixed to it, the chances of such fake invoices being circulated will reduce, or I can say it will boil down to zero eventually, because as you know, the turnover limit currently is 500 crores, the whole idea over here is they'll start with 500 crores and eventually they'll reduce that threshold and try and include more and more taxpayers into this net of e-invoicing, so that everybody is following the same procedure and the entire risk of fake GST invoices gets reduced. Apart from that, there was what we see is there's a real-time tracking of invoices is also one of the need one of the needs for e-invoicing. What do you mean by real-time tracking? So assuming that an invoice has been generated, and generally what happens is that invoice is emailed to the recipient of the goods or services. So basis that whether when to record those invoices, when to make the payment for those invoices is something that needs real-time tracking, and hence by introducing this concept of invoicing, what will happen is, as and when this invoice is generated, the details of that will go to the recipient, and he will get to know that this invoice has been generated and I need to account for it accordingly. So that is the second need for e-invoicing. benefits, if we see for this by this concept of e-invoicing, there are multifold benefits. As the concept of e-invoicing goes, I'll take a minute to explain. As in when the invoice is generated, we need to get that invoice validated in the government portal. After that, if it is say supply of goods, then we need to generate an e-bill for that. And after that, transaction goes to the GST that gets reported in the GST returns. So just by currently what happens is we generate e-bill and we report it in the GST returns. But by introduction of this e-invoicing, what will happen is the moment the idea that government is trying to bring in is the moment this gets validated, it will automatically the data of that particular transaction will automatically go to the e-bill portal with the details which are filled in over there will be automatically filled up. It will try and generate the e-bill, and it will after that it will move to the GST returns portal wherein that transaction will be reported. So just by one introduction of one new concept of e-invoicing, all the three things can come under one umbrella, and all your GST filings can be taken care of if we do if we take care of it at the inception stage, which is at the time of generation of invoice. Second thing is currently what happens is there are a lot of cases of mismatches. Say a supplier is giving an invoice of 1 lakh rupees and but recipient, according to recipient, the invoice is say of 90,000 rupees, should be of 90,000 rupees. So there's a mismatch in value, and that mismatch generally the recipient comes to know after he receives the invoice. But with the introduction of this concept of invoicing, what will happen is the moment the supplier will validate that invoice, the details of that invoice would be going to the recipient as well, and he can very well check the particulars mentioned on the invoice, so that at the month end or whenever the reconciliation is taking place, there are no such mismatches. The mismatch, if there is any, will be reported right away, so that supplier can rectify that as and when he's generating that invoice in his ERP. So that will also help in the ITC claim which the recipient would be claiming in his GST returns. That will also help in easy and precise ITC claims. So it will not lead to the current concept of 110%, which has been introduced, which gives an extra leverage of 10% to claim ITC to the extent the invoices are matched. That subsequently will move towards a precise ITC claim. So whatever actually was received and whatever invoices were received by the recipient, only that ITC will be taken by them, because it will automatically populate into GST at 2A. That is what the idea is from the government side, and basis that they can take their credits. So that will also help them in taking ITC claims at their end. Moving on. So this concept of e-invoicing was for assessees who have aggregate turnover over and above 500 crores. But assuming a scenario that a person who is supposed to generate and who is supposed to validate his particular invoice through a government portal, as his turnover is increasing 500 crores, but he fails to do so. First thing which has been mentioned in the rules, that particular transaction or invoice will not be considered as an invoice at all. So might well it may so happen that the document which was generated in the absence of an IRN and a QR code for that particular transaction, that document cannot be termed as an invoice. The moment it is not an invoice, there are twofold implications over here. First is in the hands of the supplier. So there is no specific penalty or provision over here, but under the general section of 122, what can happen is that can the person will be liable to a fine of 10,000 or the amount of tax, whichever is higher. So might well so it can so happen that assuming that he had generated an invoice of 10 lakhs rupees on which there was a GST of 18%, which is 1,80,000. So since this transaction was not validated through IRP, as per, and if he's giving that document or the invoice to the recipient without that IRN QR code, it might so happen that a penalty of 10,000 or 1,80,000, which is the higher one, would be imposed on the supplier for giving that document. That is one. Second, the question which comes is whether the recipient will be able to take the credit of that or not. So that is still a question, because the idea of e-invoicing is that once the transaction is validated, it will be automatically flowing into the GSTR2 of the recipient. If that is not moving into the GSTR2, whether that credit can be taken by the recipient or not, that is something that I think the board is yet to clarify on that, and the procedure revolving around that will be duly clarified. But yes, that is also a second implication to that particular transaction. So we need to keep in mind that there will be consequences on both ends, on the recipient and on the supplier and at the recipient side. So I think that brings toward the end of my presentation. I'll request Mr. Sarkar to take it forward from here. And if there are any questions, we'll be taking it towards the end of the presentation.
I'll just take just before Mr. Sarkar takes up the matter. I have got around 3 questions which I would like to answer. One gentleman has asked a question that what is the percentage of businessmen falls under 500 crores? I do not know how many businessmen are there, but according to NSDL data and GSTN data, there are 7,500 companies who would come under this e-invoice. So you can take the percentage. Total number of registered entity in India is 1,25 lakhs, out of which 7,500 people companies will come under this e-invoicing category at the first stage. Another question is that whether all sorts of credits are allowed or not. Of course not. The block credit provisions will continue. So therefore, the credits which are not available at present, those credits will not be available. Third question, I will take the clue from Mr. Mehta's deliberations. Now, if the entire thing will be very complicated, because some credits will get it automatically through invoicing. Suppose you are a manufacturer having a turnover of 500 crores. You will find credits, 2 types of credits. One through invoicing directly, and another those who are not falling under invoicing, their credits will also come. So therefore, your checking part will continue. It is not that whatever credit is available, it's available. You will get credit. You have always to check, because maybe at the first stage you will find 90% of your vendors are not covered under this e-invoicing formula. So therefore, this verification, checking, reconciliation will continue. So these are the 3 questions which we have got in the chat box so far. So now I'll request Mr. Sarkar and his team to deliberate the matter and give a practical presentations so that people understands how records are maintained, how informations are given in the portal, how invoices are generated. He will be assisted by Torun.
Okay, yes, করবে যে এই different segments এর জন্য e-invoice.
Please ask this question through the chat box. Please.
এই যে different segmentation গুলো আছে, এগুলোর সাথে কোন কোন অ্যাপ মানে সফটওয়্যার ইয়েগুলো
those please ask these questions through chat box, please. Otherwise it is disturbing everybody. So now what to Mr. Sarkar and Tarun.
ওইটাই তো মেইন জিনিস, ওটা বুঝলেই তো তুমি বুঝে যাবে।
Can you please
Can you please mute whoever is unmuted and talking? Can you please mute yourself?
Mandate to ask in a proposal. Well, sir, মানে আমি ওনাকে পুরো জিনিসটা দিলাম বিট মানে আপনি কি বিট করতে এটাই করছেন যে উনি একটা পোস্ট করলেন তখন আমাকে একটা প্রপোজাল দিতে হলো এটা ইনিশিয়াল স্টেজে কালকে যে উনি বলল ফুল স্ট্যাকের ব্যাপারে কোশ্চেন তাই তো
Please,
আমি অ্যাকচুয়ালি এপিআই এর জন্য আমি কি আমার রেটস বা ইশের কথা বলবো না
please mute your microphone. Hello, please mute your microphone. Hello, it is disturbing the other delegates. Please mute your microphone, please. Excepting speaker, everybody's microphone should be in a silent position.
I hope I can start now. Thank you, Mr. Chatterjee. Thank you, Shrenik, for all the inputs that you have given. And it's really a very good deliberation from both of you. Now, whatever I do is, whatever I say, it will be beyond what you people have already put it to the audience. And e-invoicing, you see, some myths are there in the invoicing, which first I want to clarify. You see, electronic invoice is not generating invoice in the IRP, invoice registration portal. A lot of people were asking me that our invoices will be generated from the government portal or not. It is not like that. You see, the taxpayer needs to generate their invoices using the existing software only. What the portal does is it does a maintenance, administration, and generation monitoring of e-invoices. Portal basically, the main objective was, as Mr. Chatterjee and Shrenik has already said, that is to stop fake invoicing, frauds, and all those things. And so the portal does not really interfere into the trade for generating their own invoices, which is the normal business practice. So portal does what it does is it just puts a check. It is some kind of an electronic authentication system. The details of already generated invoices should be uploaded in the IRP. GSTN will authenticate, validate the information, and then quick validation by integration of IRP with taxpayer software. Now here one thing comes up is that there are certain standard formats specified by GSTN for different business classes. There is the format A, B, C, and D, for which the businesses have to comply all the information in those formats. So in that respect, businesses have to really change their tables in the ERP or the information system so that there is a seamless transfer of data from there into the GST portal data. GSTN, what they do a total check of all the, whether all the mandatory informations are there. There are a lot of optional fields also in that, whether all the mandatory informations are there. If the mandatory information is not there, then it throws out an error. So first thing, the taxpayer has to ensure that his ERP system should get married to the standard formats of the given by the portal. I mean, all the information in the portal in the standard formats should, I mean, not the optional ones, the mandatory information has to come through the ERP of the taxpayer. And GSTN does a validation. If something is wrong, it will throw out an error. Now there are 2-3 modes of transferring the data. One is a file transfer, another is a API integration. Now there are 3 types of this thing. I will not go through the entire thing because my team will explain the entire thing after this. I'm just giving an overview. A JSON file is created. A JSON file is transmitted to the government portal. An IRN is generated. A QR code is generated. A digital signature is generated. You download the JSON file, take it into your system, and then it will get printed into the invoice. Now this entire process of seamless transfer of data from the taxpayer software to the portal and back to the taxpayer software, that the taxpayer may have to take a challenge of modifying their ERP system or whatever it is, so that there is no break in that seamless transfer of data. The QR code is also there. The QR code helps. This has already been explained by Shrenik and Mr. Chatterjee. The QR code helps all external agencies, including your customers, to verify your invoices. Invoice cancellation, you have to do within 24 hours. So here what has happened is, when what happens is the taxpayer really has to be very alert while making an invoice, because any cancellation has to be done within 24 hours. Otherwise, again, it has to go through the process of debit note, credit note, and all those things. So that again, one has to take care. Similarly, just now I said that the invoice must have fulfill the mandatory parameters. The ERP should align with the output data. Or the other alternative is, you can have an FTP system where you key in whatever the invoice data is there, details are there, key into the offline tool, create a JSON file, transfer it, you get your IRN number, and again you get those numbers imprinted into your invoice. That involves more of a manual control. Otherwise, you can directly send the invoice to this thing through an API integration, and in that case you can do a bulk uploading also, and the same information again flows into the e-way bill system. You can generate the part A of the e-way bill. In some of the formats, if you have the transporter name and all those things, transporter detail, even part of part B can be generated also. So there are three modes. One is an offline tool, other is through the ASP GSP, or you can directly integrate with the GST portal. And in a lot of cases, wherever you have a e-way bill registration, you can use the same registration to access this thing. Now, with that, I pass on my this thing to my team from Velocys, Mr. Tarun Oberoi, Mr. Madhur Ahuja, and Mr. Anurag Agarwal. They are the people who are at the implementation partners in this e-invoicing system. They will take you through a demo journey of generating the IRN and QR code and things like that. And you can get an idea and get an idea of how it will be done and how to generate an e-invoice. It is not a rocket science. It is your own invoice which will be generated, but you have to get an integration done. There will be a lot of MIS also in that how many invoices have IRN you have got, how many cancellations have been done during the day, how you can improve your internal systems to this thing. In fact, it is expected that, you see, if you go through a ASP GSP, you'll have to do very little. The entire thing is done through this thing, ASP GSP. They are the people who marry the ideas of the taxpayer and the GST portal, and they are this thing. So Tarun, I think you can take over now. Hello.
Thank you, Mr. Sarkar.
Yeah.
Thanks for the brief discussion.
Yeah.
I would also like to, with me, will join another colleague of mine, Anurag Agarwal. If you can allow him to share his screen, please.
Anurag.
Anurag has been given co-host right also. He can share the screen.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
It is still saying host disabled participant screen.
One sec, just a moment, please. Is it okay now?
Give me a second.
Tarun,
Yes, sir.
Tarun, there are some questions have come.
Sure, sir.
If you just refer the chat box, there are some questions. Although most of the questions are already answered by Subhasis, if you take up those questions, it will be helpful to the our viewers.
Sure. I will address the technical questions.
And technical questions actually they have asked, like is JSON has to be uploaded on real-time basis? According to me, no. But you are the best person who can answer these questions.
So let me go through these queries meanwhile.
Please.
Just a second.
Basically technical parts.
Anurag,
Yeah.
Anurag, you're able to share the screen?
No, sir, not yet.
I have given you the co-host right. Is it okay?
No, it is still showing host disabled participant screen sharing.
Make host. It's Anurag Agarwal.
Yes, please.
I have given
There is another Anurag also. I don't know.
Yeah.
right. It's showing the given co-host right. Am I correct? Just give me a moment. Anurag, I have given a. Just check. I have given a.
Yeah, it's okay now.
Okay, I have given Anurag Agarwal there to Anurag's co-host right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Tarun, go ahead.
Yeah, Anurag, can you share the screen, please?
Yeah, I'm just.
Okay. So what we'll do is we'll do as Mr. Sarkar has mentioned. We'll give a brief introduction. Then we'll show you the brief architecture, how this would look like, how the data will flow exactly in an architectural way. Then we'll also discuss what are the various ways of integration methodology for generation of e-invoice. And finally, we'll also show you how e-invoice gets generated from the IRP portal as a live demo. So we'll cover these 3-4 aspects while covering this e-invoicing part. Just one single slide about Velocys. We are a 670 crore plus company with more than 1,000 employees, with more than 2 decades years of experience and a pan-India presence. CML level 5 company who has been a GSP authorized by GSTN right from the first batch. Means from December 2016, we have been a GSP. I have been working along with various corporates and enterprises for GSTR filing, e-waybill, and now the e-invoicing part. So this is how it is, this is our presence and landscape. Anurag?
Yes, sir.
We cover this. You can straight off start with your part.
So Mr. Chatterjee and Mr. Sarkar has discussed on how the data would flow from the enterprise to the government portal. We will discuss the practical aspects of the invoice, how the actual data would flow, and what is the role of ASP GSP while we do the e-invoice filing. Now, as we understand that the data from the ERP would go or to any of your taxpayer, the data from the taxpayer would go to the government portal, and government portal will give a response to that invoice. Now, we also understand that it is not an invoice that gets populated on the government portal. We just need to send the data of our invoice. That data would be in a JSON format. So this is one of the format that is being given by the government. Like we have an Excel format or a TXT format. JSON is also a format which is used to transfer data through internet from one place to another. And once we will transfer that data, government will acknowledge that data and give a response. Now that response will again be a JSON that will be decoded at the seller's end, and which will contains the IRN number, 64-digit IRN number, and details of a QR code. Now there is another this thing that you will get an image from the government portal, or you will get some kind of physical manifestation of signature that we get on the data. So that the data set that we receive from the government is actually digitally signed. When they say digitally signed, it means that this is encrypted and only a correct user can see it. We'll show you how the actual data looks like and how the actual attributes of the QR codes look like. But we have used JSON quite a few times. This is how a basic JSON format looks like. So all your attributes of the invoice is then populated on a JSON. And that JSON is getting uploaded to the government portal. And each invoice has a single JSON. So for example, you have, let us say, 10 invoice. So for 10 invoice, 10 JSON will get populated, and you will get a response of each invoice per JSON. So for 10 invoice, you will get 10 requests of JSONs back, which will contain an IRN number and which will contain details of a QR code. And there can be certain enterprises who are not able to convert their, let us say, this data into a JSON format, or they want some kind of intermediary that can connect the government portal to their own ERPs, maybe the standard SAP, Tele, Oracle-based system, or their homegrown system. So the ASP system sits in between the government portal and the enterprise. It can accept the data in any of the formats. So you can give the Excel, CSV, any of the format, or through web services. And this data would then seamlessly flow to the government portal. And the response of that invoice would also get flown back to the user. Now we see that generating an invoice and an IRN number and a QR code will increase some certain amount of time on the generation of invoice. That is why you need some sort of automation tool that can automatically take the data from the ERP, send it to the government portal, send the response back to your ERP, and make sure that you are compliant in an e-invoice environment. And similarly, your outward supplies data is now shared with multiple platforms. So it is IRP at one end, GSTR one end, and e-waybill at another end. So all your compliance can be taken care by a single application. So if you'll give us the data to the ASP, the same data can be shared to the government in terms of GSTR1, e-waybill, and IRP, and all your outward compliance can be taken care by this. This is how a basic flow in an automated environment would look like. That ERP will store a data, will have a data. The data will move to the ASP in any of the format. ASP will validate it, and once ASP validates it, through its own channel, it sends the data to the government portal, that is IRP. IRP is the invoice registration portal that is being governed by the government. Once the IRP receives the data, it gives a digitally signed payload, that is the JSON, back to us. We store that JSON, convert it again into a format that is recognized by the ERP, and send the data to the government portal. Now this to and fro communication can be as quick as 5 seconds, 10 seconds. This can be managed through ASP application along with the compliance and other reporting and dashboard parts. Now we have discussed regarding the data that we send to the government portal. The second part is the data that we receive from the government portal. So whatever data that we receive from the government is divided into 5 sets: acknowledgement number, acknowledgement date, IRN, details of the signed invoice, that is signed invoice, and signed QR code. So acknowledgement number is an acknowledgement that your invoice has been received at the government portal, and date is when was the IRN created. And this is important because for the cancellation of invoice, only 24 hours is there. A window of 24 hours are there. So, and 24th hour will be calculated from the date and time on which you have created IRN. So, for example, our invoice is dated as 1st September, but you have uploaded that invoice on 2nd September. So, your 24 hours will start from this date of registration in the government portal, not from the date and time of the invoice creation. IRN, as we have discussed, is a 64-digit number, and signed QR code are the encoded forms of document date, total invoice value, item count, main HSN code, and IRN. We have discussed that this data would be encrypted or encoded. This is how a encoded QR code looks like. These are some random alphabetic and numerical numbers. The idea is that nobody can now tamper with this data because nobody knows what is the algorithm that is being used for decoding this signed QR code. And from the government approved applications only, when you will scan this QR code, it will correctly correspond to the GSTN number, seller GSTN number, buyer GSTN number, and all these details. And this is the entire this mechanism they said is we have digitally signed this, making sure that we are authenticating that this transaction takes place at the government portal. So we discussed regarding the data flow to the ASP. Generally acceptable workflow around the automation are FTP, which is what we call as file transfer protocol, or the API or application process. So in file transfer is more on a batch processing. So what happens in FTP is, let us say after every 20 minutes or after every 30 minutes, whatever invoices you have created in your ERP would in a batch process would go to the out folder. ASP will automatically picks that data and send to the government portal, and whatever the response is, it will be shared in the in folder, and from the in folder the data will go to the ERP. So this is a completely automated format. Automated in the sense that nobody is going to import and click a button. Automatically after a scheduled time it is going to happen. Now, however, there are certain enterprises who would want a real-time integration. Real-time integration would mean that probably in a 1 minute or less than a minute, they would want this to and fro communication. On those cases, we suggest the API integration, in which as and when you save the data goes from ERP to the ASP and to the government portal, and this communication is achieved in less than a minute. However, would you like to choose a API integration or a FTP integration? Depends upon certain points. We can discuss these points offline also, but just to give you a broad outline, that there are certain ERPs which are not enabled for the API integration. Obviously, in those cases, FTP would be a better preferred way. And in certain cases, for example, SAP and other ERPs, it may imply certain additional cost. So a ERP vendor can say that if you use the API integration, we will charge you this much amount for this license. So in those cases, enterprise can choose whether they want to go with the API integration or the FTP integration. And finally, this is how an invoice looks like. Your invoice would have a QR code that you can see on the right hand side and your details of the invoice. And this printout we are taking from the ERP itself. ASP is just passing on the data, collecting a data and giving a data back to the IRP. And from invoice registration portal, that is IRP, it is giving the data back to the ASP. We'll also show you a quick glimpse of the ASP application and how the actual generation takes place. So this is a ASP application, and this is a landing page or a dashboard. The idea of this dashboard is to show you that it will give you a picture of, let us say an organization. Let us say an organization have 10 GSTNs or 15 GSTNs, and they want to see what is the overall generation in terms of percentage and values. How many invoices have been created as an e-invoice? In what percentage of invoices there are still errors? And in what invoices there are errors and what are the errors? So this can give you a picture of total invoices vis-a-vis their status. And these are the type of the invoices for which we need to create a e-invoice.
जैसे मनीषा जैसे बात हुआ उसका ही मतलब से काम है, ठीक है ना। अब मेरे को मतलब जब काम पेंडिंग होता है ये होता है नहीं, ये मतलब एनकरेज कर देता है, ये कर देंगे वो कर देंगे, ठीक है ना। अब तो उस मोटिवेशन से काम करता है।
Hello.
Yeah, these are the type of invoices for which we need to create a e-invoice, and this is the overall GSTN wise data. For example, we have 2 GSTNs. So on the single screen, you are able to see how many invoices we have created, how many invoices there are still. For example, there are 34 errors in the Karnataka GSTNs. Now, if you want to see how many invoices we have imported, this is a screen. If we will go with the API or the FTP integration, no user would come here on this screen and would upload a data. However, if let us say a user wants to upload something, he can come on the screen, say I want to upload the data. There would be a predefined data set which user can select and decide that I want to upload this data and click on import. When he'll click on import, if the data is correct, his file will get uploaded and he will see that the 2 invoices have been uploaded. Next stage is the generation of an IRN. So this is the invoice that I have uploaded, and let us say I have to create an IRN of this invoice. I'll select this invoice and click on generate. Once I'll click on this generate button, this data would go to the government portal and I will get a response. Now I'm getting a response that IRN has been generated successfully. If I want to see what was the IRN number, this is a IRN. This is a 64-digit IRN number. You can take an Excel from here. You can take the output of image from here, or if you want, a basic GST compliant invoice would also be available to you, in which you will get an IRN number, IRN QR code, and the details of the IRN. Basically, you need to put in on a QR code. So if there can be various ways. Let us say if you want the data back to your ERP, we can give data back to your ERP. If you want just an image of a QR code downloaded from the system, you can download the QR code. And in certain cases, if you want a response of JSON, then also you can download this JSON. And you can also verify this JSON going to the government portal. So if you download this JSON and go to the government portal and upload this JSON to the government portal, you will get a verification. In case you want to cancel these invoices, you can also cancel it from here. And then the data will move to the cancelled invoices. And as discussed, in case you want to generate an e-waybill, then for all the invoice that you have created IRN of would be shown on this. And let us say I want to create a e-waybill, I will click in here and click on generate. And either there will be error or my e-waybill will get generated. So this is how the entire flow take place. Currently, I have shown you generation of IRN by a manual method. That is, I've uploaded a file. You can also use previously discussed 2 methods, that is FTP or API. In both these methods, Nobody will have to physically come to the ASP application and upload Excel file. It will be completely in an automated scenario. So, sir, I've covered most of the points of the IRP. I guess we can cover the questions, or anybody have any specific questions around this?
Anurag, I had a question.
Yes, sir.
Hello. What about bulk upload? I mean, suppose we have got, say, 100 invoices in a day.
Right.
We can do a bulk upload and get the IRNs. How much time does it take?
So, sir, as we discussed, it depends upon what is the method you are choosing. For example, you are choosing a API method. In API, the entire 100 invoices will get populated, let us say, in 10 minutes. Or if we say that we will go with a FTP kind of import. In FTP, it will be a scheduled thing, and this schedule would be close to 15 to 20 minutes. If you say that I will not use FTP, I will not use API, I will manually upload the file in the format, then also it will take 15-20 minutes. So you will, let us say you have an Excel ready with 100 invoices. You will go on this button and click on the import and upload your 100 invoices. 100 invoices would get uploaded to the system. Then you will go to the generate e-invoice, select your 100 invoices and click on generate. It's not that you need to create upload invoices.
And one more question I had was, what happens in the case of where I have multiple GSTINs generating invoices from different locations for a single PAN?
So, sir,
I mean, each location will operate independently.
Yes,
correct.
Yes.
So we will have different user ID, and each location can
different user IDs under the same PAN.
Under the same PAN, correct.
And what will be the control? I mean, like there'll be an administrator controlling that whole thing. I mean, user enable, disable, and all those things. That is possible to set up.
Yes, Mr. Sarkar, if you see on the left side, there is an administrator module where we have the organization profile. So in the organization profile, the user will be mapped accordingly, and the actions, which legal entity, which GSTN number he is entitled to, what is his role, will be mapped out there.
So sir, we can decide, for example, you can create various categories of user. For example, you can create one sub user or a overall manager user who can have access of all your GSTN. Let us say you have 10 GSTNs and one management person want to see the data of all the 10 GSTNs. And one specific user would want to have access of, let us say, only the Kolkata GSTNs. So you can decide which user can see which set of data.
So that protocol can be set in a flexible manner.
Correct, sir.
Let me add here, sir. Let me add one thing more in this question. Suppose supplier has generated their invoices, then to whom ID it will hit, whether the manager ID or to the sub ID?
So sir, it depends upon, for example, you have uploaded an invoice into the ASP application. Now that invoice belongs to the UP registration. So anybody who have access of UP registration would be able to see that invoice.
No, suppose I have a PAN-based registration for Calcutta, for West Bengal, and we have sub-user for, say, Durgapur and other cities of the West Bengal. Now, suppose for Durgapur unit, one supplier has issued an invoice and uploaded it into the GSTN portal. My question is, to whom it will hit, whether to the Calcutta Whether to the
You see, Anurag, what he's asking is that in the same state, same GSTN, he is, if I'm not wrong, correct me, he is having different locations. One in Kolkata, one in Durgapur, one in Asansol, one in some other place. So how the taxes will be controlled unit-wise? So you can define the user, I think, at different places.
No, is that the question?
Yeah, this is the question. But the supplier will issue the invoice on the basis of my main PAN-based registration number.
What do you mean by supplier will issue? We are talking invoice will be issued only by the supplier.
Suppose I am recipient.
Okay.
No, sir, in case of recipient, you will get a physical copy of the invoice and you will get a data of your 2A. As a recipient, you need not to do anything on the invoice part.
No, Anurag.
Yes, sir, yes.
He wants to know who will have the access or who will know about this particular invoice which has been raised by the supplier.
He's talking about inward invoices. I mean, invoices from the vendor. Not an outward supply, if I'm not wrong. He's saying that when a supplier issues an invoice, who will keep the control of that credit? If I'm not wrong.
According to me, I know this is a little technical area, but according to me, the address which is registered as the principal place of business in West Bengal, and that number is allotted to that particular. You may have different places.
Yeah.
All returns, etc. So it is a PAN-based registration. Every state will have only one number, and wherever the registered office is located, in respect of that particular GSTN number, only those company will have the access.
Yeah.
In the meantime,
places will be all additional places of business.
In the meantime, I have got some queries. I have seen many people have asked a question whether bill of supply will come under this e-invoice. Answer is no. Bill of supply or delivery challan, both these are outside the purview of the GST invoice. The reason is very clear. On bill of supply, there is no GST amount, there is no GST payable. In case of delivery challan, also there is no question of payment of GST. So they are concerned only where the GST is involved. That means invoice, debit note, and credit note. In all these three places, your GST amount is involved. That is why these are the only three documents which are covered under the under this e-invoicing system. Three questions are already cleared. Whether exempt service also e-invoice is required, I have already explained in. Exempt services are supplied by bill of supply. In that case, it is not applicable. For a bill supply, it is mandatory to use QR code. Question does not arise when it is not coming under GST e-invoicing category. Not now, might be future with government, I have not understood. Whether now another few questions are there on the upper side. Let me see. Anurag has to say regarding cancellation of the bill. Already it has been replied by Mr. Sarkar and Anurag that you can cancel the bill within a period of 24 hours. 24 hours will be recognized from the government portal time and not your time. And with any other question, whether less than 500 companies are allowed for the e-invoicing? Very good question. And this question we got from many people and not from this discussion stage. According to me, Anurag will be able to confirm, or Subhasis can confirm. According to me, you can certainly cover your transactions under e-invoicing route, even if your turnover is less than 500 crores. 500 crores is.
But once you get into invoicing, you can't come out of it.
You cannot come out of that. So those who are interested to come within, whose turnover is say 300, 400 crores, many of our clients have asked us whether they should go for e-invoicing. I have said that it is better to go into the invoicing because preparation, training, everything, it takes around 5 to 6 months time. Proper. So therefore, it is those who are in the range of 200, 300, 400 or 450 category, they may consider to come under e-invoicing net, because very soon they will come under e-invoicing. And it is most, sorry?
One more thing which I have been faced with some questions of clients. You see, these public sector undertakings and these big corporates, they are insisting on their vendors to come under e-invoicing.
That is what I have already explained. And big private companies, those who have got a muscle power, they are saying nothing like that. I want e-invoice, then only I'll give you. Yes, validity of the input documents. So, Subhasis, if you have anything to say further, please.
Okay, anything else, Anurag? Hello?
So that's it from my side. Somebody has asked a certain question on the chat. Please explain about transitional provision also.
If there is any other question, please, how can e-invoice be amended, Anurag?
So there is no provision of amendment of invoice.
Yes, can you explain this matter? How an invoice can be amended?
So there is no provision of amendment of invoice. The only thing you can do is issue a debit note or a credit note.
Okay. That means if it expires 1 hour, then you cannot change the invoice, and you have to go through debit note, credit note method.
Absolutely. After 24 hours, that's the only process.
Yes.
Below 24 hours, you can cancel it and make a fresh invoice.
Yes.
Yeah, one more question I was seeing here.
So somebody has asked whether e-invoice is mandatory for SEZ area also. So if your buyer is SEZ, you have to issue an invoice.
No, he is asking a question whether SEZ are under the obligations for e-invoice or not. I will answer this question because SEZ matters we are handling. SEZ not means that it only exports goods. It also supplies materials to the DTA, domestic tariff area. So if your total turnover, including SEZ sale, is more than 100 crore, 500 crores, according to me, they would also come under e-invoicing. That means SEZ will have two types of sale. One, SEZ related, another is the DTA related. If you club together and if you find that, Hari, hello, please mute your microphone.
Please mute yourself, whoever is talking.
Please, if the SEZ's export turnover and DTA turnover exceeds 500 crores, then certainly it will come under e-invoicing category. There is no exemption for SEZ category or EOU category or FTZ category. There is no such exemption. It is only concerned with the turnover. So therefore, that is there. If I am purchasing from unregistered SEZ, I do not know what is unregistered SEZ, then it becomes RCM. What is the provision of such case? I have not understood this case. If it could be clarified further, there cannot be any organization in SEZ which is unregistered. I do not know, because every SEZ, it is a hypothetical question. Every SEZ needs to dispose some of their materials in the DTA. Apart from that, SEZ regulations requires lot of registrations. So I do not think any unregistered SEZ is possible. Yes, there could be a case where a SEZ is buying materials from unregistered dealer. That is a separate question. But SEZ, for example, every SEZ has its scrap. This scrap they are not exporting. I am assuming that SEZ is meant only for export. In that case, where would they sell the scrap? For scrap, they have to charge the GST. They have to charge the basic custom duty. So, any SEZ without registrations, I don't think it is possible. So this is a little hypothetical. E-invoice is applicable for all those where GST is not applicable. If we cancel e-invoice within 24 hours after uploading due to wrong information, can I upload same invoice? No. If 24 hours is crossed, then you have to adjust it through credit note, and then you issue another invoice.
Chatterjee sir, just adding to it, even if the 24 hours have not been passed, you cannot upload the same invoice again. Invoice number again. Invoice number would be different. So for example, I have uploaded invoice number 123.
Yes.
And within 20.
Hello.
Hello. You see, what he's saying is within 20 cancelled invoice number again will be unique. I mean, you cannot upload that same invoice number again.
Same invoice number cannot be uploaded again.
Yeah, one more question has come. How will we correlate manual invoice number with 64-digit IRN number? Now, manual invoice number, I suppose the invoice number which is generated by the ERP. What you call as a document number. So, you really cannot establish any correlation between these two other than in your MIS and in your internal control system that I mean, there cannot be a correlation of the number. Your manual invoice is your internal control in the ERP. IRN is generated by the GST portal. Now, where does the check comes? Check comes is not valid unless there is an IRN in that. So that is the check. So, but you cannot correlate the I mean, numbers as such. You can say that against this invoice number, my IRN code is this. You can always generate a MIS or a report against what are the IRN numbers are coming against which invoice. But the issue remains that an manual invoice will not be valid unless there is an IRN in that.
No, suppose, sir, I have issued 2 manual invoice to the same same party in the same date. Then how I will correlate? And for the same amount, suppose.
So your IRN will be different. No? Your invoice number will be different.
I know invoice number will be different, but JSON, how I will correlate with the JSON number? IRN number with my document number.
Sir, वो जो JSON होगा ना आपका, the JSON that you will receive would also have a corresponding invoice number.
Yeah,
So
invoice number will be there, IRN number will be there.
Yeah, as you would recall, in your JSON structure, I have set 5 things: signed invoice, signed QR code. On signed invoice and signed QR code, you will get a invoice number and your IRN. And the ASP application that I showed to you also had 2 parts. One was your invoice number and internal invoice number, and one was the corresponding IRN number.
Okay.
So you can, if at all you have a ASP application, then you can just download an Excel report. It will tell you that this was the IRN number and this was the corresponding IRN number that was issued against this.
And suppose, sir, we do not have any ASP facility, and I will do all this through the offline utility. Whether this will be possible through the offline utility?
So sir, in offline utility also, whenever you will whenever you will download that JSON and you will upload that JSON into the offline utility, it will also show you the invoice number.
Okay, thanks.
Because the JSON formats will remain the same, whether it is through ASP or through offline utility.
Technically, it is possible. Only it will be additional iterations of manual process which you will have to do. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Mr. Chatterjee. Hello.
Yes, I'm listening.
We were recently, one of our known taxpayers, he was saying that he non-exempt services are also there. He has to come under e-invoicing.
Yes. Can recipient cancel the e-invoice? If yes, then what is the time frame? The invoice can always be cancelled, and there is no time limit by way of credit note and debit note. So that is no problem. By credit note, you can always cancel it if it is more than 24 hours. Can you use a e-invoice as a tax invoice? Yes. Or commercial invoice? No, no, no. For all practical purpose, e-invoice is to be considered as tax invoice. And my advice is that you have to be little bit careful about your supplier, whether their turnover is above 500 crores or not. I know this responsibility is not mentioned in any of the legislations, but as a good corporate citizen, it is better to see that your vendor is complying with the respective rules or regulations. So it might have a problem. Suppose you have received an invoice from a supplier whose turnover is more than 500 crores, but he has submitted a normal invoice or manual invoice. In that case, that credit might be denied. I understand if you go to the tribunal or if you go to the High Court, obviously you will get the credit. There is no dispute. If the credit payment is undisputed, then credit cannot be denied. There are several cases. But to start with, you may have some problem. So I think it is better to check up with your vendor about what is their turnover criteria, what is turnover positions. There are questions, lot of questions are coming. Can we use e-invoice as we have already replied. Material received against bill of material. I do not know what is bill of material. Challan could be or invoice could be. But after 2 days, it is found that the invoice is wrong. Miss input of value, etc. What is to be done? You have no other alternative but take the
Bill
help
of
of
material. Bill of material. I think he's referring to EPC contracts where bill of material is based on the customer.
bill of material. I know in the costing there is a concept of bill of material, but in GST there is no concept of bill of material. But any change has to be done once it is recorded through only debit note and credit note. That is the essence in the GST. Is GST credit is allowed to take against scanned copy of the tax invoice, not e-invoice. You see, I have already explained you very clearly that credit cannot be denied by the department if the duty payment character of the document is undisputed. There are 1001 cases on this. If this is not a question of original copies, but in the departmental level, if you take credit on scan copy or photocopy of the document, there could be some disputes. But if you have to take up the matter with the tribunal, I am sure with all sincerity that credit cannot be denied if it is undisputed credit. So is GST credit is allowed to take against scan copy? We have already replied. E-invoice may be original for receipt, duplicate copy. I don't think any such concept is there in e-invoice that this is meant for taking credit, this is meant for transporter, this is meant for XYZ, nothing like that. So these are all questions. I think we have tried our best to answer your queries. And if there is anything to deliver by any of the speakers, please do that. Otherwise,
I would request, Tirtha, I would request them, Anurag and Madhur, to show a real-time this IRN generation.
Yes, sir.
Anurag, I was talking to, I think Madhur can give his inputs on that. Madhur, can you share the screen and
Yeah.
on a real-time IRN generation?
Yes, sir, we can do that. Give me a second.
Yeah. I think that will be good input for the participants.
So we have created once.
Yes, sir.
We'll
So we
create
can
it
get
again.
as we have the.
So let us say, sir, we have two invoices and we want to create the IRN of those two invoices.
Are you able to share the screen?
Anurag, your screen is still not visible.
Yeah, I'm just sharing it.
Yeah.
Now on one of the invoices, I'll select one invoice and we'll click on generate. I've imported this invoice, I'll click on generate, and whenever I'll click on this generate, the message is coming, IRN has been generated successfully. Now for this invoice, IRN has been generated. To view that invoice, I can see this on 19002. The IRN has been created and the acknowledgement date time is 5:59. So Currently the time is 5:59 p.m. We have created the invoice on 1st September 2020. Time is 5:59 p.m. So you can cancel this invoice within 24 hours of this. If you want
And
to see a few.
how many validation checks does the DSTN authorities do? Portal.
Sir, GSTN has close to 50 validations as of now. And we also have a list of close to 150 validation that we do on the data.
That is before transferring it to the portal.
Before transferring to the portal, correct.
Something, Anurag, how does a ASP integration help? I mean, like, if I go for direct FTP or for direct registration with the portal.
No, sir. If you go directly, then there will be no FTP and API and FTP kind of integration.
Yeah.
And in that case, you need not to communicate directly with the government, or you do not fall in that compliance also. You need to contact only the ASP, and ASP will make sure that every compliance is in place in terms of setup. So as somebody was also discussing that they can go with an offline generation part of it. They can also go, but it will increase the time duration. So first you will take out an Excel file, then you will create JSON, then you will upload that JSON to the government portal. Then government will give a response. The response can be error, it can be success. In case of error, you will again repeat the entire process. And in case of success, you will download the JSON and then put that JSON into your ERP and then create an e-invoice. So this will create the overhead. However, let us say if there's only 10 invoice or 5 invoice, there are cases of project management in which, let us say, 2 invoice needs to be generated. Then maybe they can decide on the pros and cons. But the ASP application, the advantage of ASP application is that from the single application, you will be able to do your entire GST compliance. Now, you will also understand that close to 90% of your invoices would be covered in e-invoice. Very few, that is your B2C supplies or exempted supplies, would not be covered. Otherwise, all your invoices would get covered. So your GSTR1 and your e-way bill compliance has automatically been taken care of. And then, sir, going forward, government can have this kind of reconciliation that please reconcile your e-invoice with your e-way bill or your e-invoice with your GSTR1, like they are doing.
Government has already started doing that. They are already sending notices that your e-way bill total is so much and your GSTR1 total is so much. So you reconcile and give us the figures.
If the ASP application, since the ASP application,
at present the government is still having all the information. It is the e-way bill or the outward. They've already started doing a matching and sending notices for differences.
Correct, sir.
But here you see what happens is, since it's a seamless flow of information data into the GSTR1 and the e-way bill system, I mean, chances of getting differences will be much lesser.
Much less, correct.
Chances of mistakes will be much lesser.
Yes, it will be fast also.
Yeah.
Okay, friends. I think every good things has its end. And we have got several questions. Most of the questions have been replied. And thanks to Sarkar, Mr. Sarkar, Anurag, Tarun, and my PwC team for their kind presence and took so much time to deliberate on the subject. It is an ongoing process. Anything new, it will become old after some time. Like GST was new, but GST is no more a new thing to us. By and large, today we are familiar with the various provisions of the GST, but this sort of thing will come out every time. Now, new scheme which are coming today within next few days or a month is called foreign trade policy. Foreign trade policy is going to be changed. You know, it has already expired on 31st March 2020, but the government, because of the COVID situation, has extended it up to 31st March 2021. In between, they are coming out with some new schemes for which notification has already issued. And like rod tape, Softail, and all these things are coming slowly. So from our indirect tax team, we'll continue our efforts to discuss those issues, take your questions well in advance so that you have no problem in its implementations. I think GST, you all agree, it is one of the most important liberalization schemes in our country after independence. I have the opportunity to see Income Tax Act, VAT Act, Sales Tax Act, SINVAT Act, ModVat Act, and then GST. If you consider all these changes which have taken place in fiscal area, you will all agree that GST is one of the most important legislations. We all professionals have to join our hands to strengthen the government machinery so that maximum collections are made and average rate of tax is reduced. Today, India is one of the lowest tax destinations. If you consider the income tax, if you consider the GST, you know the GST average rate is around 15%. If you take together all upper limit and lower limit. And there is a huge amount of exemptions. So we have to make sure that the government is in a position to see the success of these particular systems, and we all professionals have to strengthen the hands of the government to make sure revenue is intact, country grows, at the same time average rate of taxes are reduced. We from Bengal Chamber of Commerce, the oldest chamber of commerce in the country, is taking all sorts of initiatives to develop the manpower in various fields, not on taxations only, on finance, on insurance, on corporate governance, on corporate law, on foreign trade, at least 100 areas. We are taking up almost 120 to 125 workshops are made in a year. But now I feel it has increased because of the webinar. So please take the advantage of the chamber. Get yourself familiar with the new things. Now new foreign trade policy is coming. Maybe we'll be coming out with our next workshop on foreign trade policy, on which we'll be discussing on various new concepts which are coming. And if we know all these things, it will be extremely helpful to our industry where we are working or wherefore you are working. So we always be with the chamber, we always be updated From my own experience, I have seen that there are many professionals who do not have any dearth of qualifications. I am telling you, 90% of the professionals, they are not updated, and that value is eroded. Today, having a qualified professionals is not enough. It is just one barrier you have crossed. The most important thing is how updated you are in various fields, particularly in our areas, taking into account income tax, corporate laws, GST, foreign trade policy, FEMA, Foreign Trade Regulation Act. These are the important areas where we have to keep our ears and eyes open. And this is exactly our chamber is doing. You will find at least 3 to 4 workshops are being organized in every week in various fields, including vocational training, including CSR, and many other areas. So friends, today we are very hard. We appreciate your presence. More than 125 people were present today. And I thank our Chamber's Secretariat, mainly Sarvani, for organizing such a nice workshop. I normally take 3 to 4 workshops in a week, but today I am very happy to see the number of questions asked by the participants are really good, and I am giving you a award. Being a chairman, we are coming out with several other webinars on the relevant fields of taxations, and we hope that you will continue to support our endeavors by way of your active participations. Please do ask questions, and if we don't know, you will come back to you, but let us discuss.
Sir, there are 2 more questions also.
I'll reply from my, you just send those 2 questions, I'll send it.
Okay.
Send the reply tomorrow.
Okay, sir.
You just note down my email number for any reference, whether it is a indirect tax, whether it's a direct tax, whether it's a foreign trade, whether it's the excise, whether it's a service tax, whether it's a VAT, foreign trade policy, FEMA. Please refer your name, give the identity, and send your question either to me or to Sarvani, who will immediately forward it to us. And if necessary, I'll take the help of my colleagues, these people, so that they can help me to get the correct answer. So my email number is tb.chatterjee, T for Tata, B for Bombay, .chatterjee, CHATTERJEE at yahoo.co.in, at yahoo.co.in. So if you have any question on e-invoice, if you have any question on FTP or anything like that, please do come back to us. We'll certainly share our thoughts with you. Thank you very much. And I am requesting Sarvani to take the matter further.
Thank you for joining us today. If there are any more questions or anything to be clarified, you please mail me. We will get it appropriately answered by the chairperson, and the presentation will be shared to your email ID. Thank you. Thank you once again. Thank you, Mr. Shortcut, and thank you, Mr. Oberoi, and Mr. Agarwal and Mr. Ahuja for joining us today in this webinar. Thank you. We will be organizing soon our new webinars, or another webinar on new topics that Sir will guide us. So thank you once again for joining today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. आएंगे, हाँ बाद में भी